Good morning, zookeepers, and welcome back to Planet Zoo. Today we're making an enclosure for the Red River Hog. Now, I absolutely love these guys, and I got them in the tropical pack quite recently. And Red River Hogs, they're absolutely adorable. Like the zoo near me, Blackpool Zoo, have Red River Hogs, and they're towards I'd say the front of the zoo because it's where the main road is, but in theory from where the entrance is, like the newer, I say new entrance, it's been the entrance for years now, but the Red River Hogs are sort of at the back near the barn where all the petting zoo area is, and they look absolutely lovely, and I do like their enclosure. It is a nice and simple enclosure. Red River Hogs you don't need to get too fancy with them. I go slightly fancy with this one. I really like these bark panels. So I'm going to be making out like a sort of like one of those pig houses for them using the bark and the wood, and I just stretch it out like so. It took me a bit to get this sort of right. I messed it up the first time, second time turned out quite nice, and then I sort of because I didn't want to leave it kind of like this, I added some like fake supports in, and it took me a while to figure out what I wanted, how I wanted it, but at the end we did get there. And then I kept it simple because I started fearing that I was going too far with it, and I didn't want to lose that kind of fake nature scene, as it were, whereas it wouldn't be, if I put way too much onto it, then it would look a little bit too man-made, even though it is man-made. It's hard to explain what was going through my mind when I was making these, but nevertheless I feel like they turned out really nice. And then I was sort of messing around what can I use to make a fence without using a fence, just to make it kind of interesting. So I used these ladders and then just put mesh in between the steps, and because I'd be making a natural sort of standoff barrier between the fence and the guests, I felt like it'd be alright with the odd gap where the pig isn't going to get through. And yeah, I really like the way this turned out with just using these ladders with a bit of mesh inside. I try and look at different things and can I make a fence of that? Can I make something interesting with that, even though it's not meant to be for that purpose? And I feel like it has a really cool jungle vibe, this. And as you can see, I was sort of messing around, can I fill in those gaps? And then in the end I was like, no, I'll leave it, it'll be the pigs ain't getting out, the guests ain't going in. But yeah, anyways, going on to the resting enclosure, I didn't want to do that fence all the way around. I wanted some variation, and it took me a while to decide how I wanted the house to look, this being the keeper house, where I'm going to put a keeper kitchen that can look out into the enclosure, as well as a way for the keepers to get in and out. I slightly decorate the inside, and I put the floor down, and then once I put the building in, I was like, oh, the way I'm building this, you're not going to be able to see in here, so there was no need for me to decorate the inside. I could have even wanted to add a bit of that storytelling, but in hindsight, I'm not really going to be looking inside that little keeper house. I'm going to be looking at my Red River Hogs. So I did sort of abandon decorating the inside of that because the pigs ain't going in there, so I've got no need to have Nosy in there. Obviously the keeper building already has nice decoration in, which you can see from that little window, so I was like, okay. And then I go around repositioning the little houses into the corner closer together, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to add support to these walls to make it look like it's not just sort of stuck out on the ground and is actually being held up in some kind of way. So it's just a nice little touch, a bit of storytelling again, so obviously it's not necessary, but it just looks nice, adds a little bit of a feature to it. Obviously this is already a pretty sort of a square build, like I usually do anyways, so it just adds just that little bit of extra storytelling to it. It looks nice, stands out a little bit, even though in the end when I start putting plants on the outside of the enclosure, when I get around to doing that, it might hide it off a bit, but you can still sort of see it, especially when you're walking around your zoo, having a nosy at all the different enclosures and animals. As you see now, I'm just planting up. I want the long grass around the sort of the mesh barriers and around the outside, because it's not being cut or it's not being trampled on as much as the centre and things like this. so I sort of add that to there to sort of break out the little bits, and then I just go around adding loads of trees, different bushes, knocking around on the outside, a few next to the buildings. It just looks kind of nice when you have like a lot of shrubbery that kind of semi-hides or breaks up the fencing and things like this, and it just looks nice. Like sometimes you see some people where they do everything in the middle and then you just have this barren fence around the outside, and sometimes it works for certain enclosures, especially when you don't want plants growing up against the fence. But for something like a red river hog, it doesn't really matter too much, and you probably do want it on the outside so it's not getting trampled as much. Anyways, I go around adding the path to it, and then I was kind of deciding like how I wanted to do this natural standoff barrier. I didn't make it too like in your face at first. I started adding these little black little stones, so it makes it like, oh, you don't trip over that, and gives you a good idea where you as the guest are meant to be, and then obviously the animals and etc. So it's like a tiny little natural standoff barrier. It reminds me of like little bits of coal. Like I did it very dark, and in the end I just stuck with it, so I quite like the look of it. It does stand out, it mixes in with the path. Anyways, I do cut out a bit because there is a lot of rock work, and that would have been the majority of the video, is me placing those little stones. And I was like, you know what, I want a back wall for the guests as well, which I turned into planters. Again, it just builds up that enclosure, makes it kind of like interesting to look at from a distance, because it's like you got to walk into the enclosure area to be able to see the red hogs. And it's just nice. It's just a nice bit of scenery and decoration before you even get to the enclosure. And I did enjoy making this. I was just placing loads of plants everywhere, trying to make it very jungly and block out your view from the pigs, but also makes it interesting to look at. Had a few signs, a bit of a talking point there, and I was just like looking through a bit, like a few different objects, thinking, oh, is there anything else I can add? And then I was like thinking, no, I'm out of push here where I'm going to be end up putting too much in the way, which I didn't want to go around and do, so I didn't want to ruin it. So it already looks nice and simple. I do like making those like nice and simple builds. Anyways, I'm back, as you can see right now, I'm back at the house. I've added a roof, like a tin roof. It looks kind of cool, and then I just added a little bit of wood, so it looks like it's got like some support structure going on, and then the nice door. Obviously the keepers can just walk through this. It's like they can just clip through it, but it looks nice in the end, finishes off that building. And yeah, I'm really happy with this enclosure. I feel like it turned out quite nice. It was a really simple build. I just love watching the red river hogs knocking around in this enclosure, especially when they use these little I don't know what you'd call it. I keep in my head pig shed, but it's not a shed. I'm pretty sure there is a name for them, but I feel like they're really cute, especially when they're going inside there and lying down. It's just like I just put some nice pictures which I've managed to get, which you'll see over on my Instagram, which is just the same as my channel name, Jurassic World Biology. If you're on YouTube, it'll be in the description, a link for it. And yeah, you can see the pictures I got off there if you're into that sort of thing and you have an Instagram and like looking at screenshots from the game. But these red river hogs are absolutely amazing. Like, they did a really good job on them, like little bits of like strand of fur coming from the ears, the noises they make, the movement. It is just like watching the red river hog at my local zoo. Like, they are absolutely adorable. I do need to turn on the fact that they can have babies in it, because I just want to see the little hoglets and see what they look like. I bet they'll be even more adorable than the adults in this game, like the majority of baby creatures do. And oh, look at that, I just want to boot the snoot. Like, it's so cute. And then one running in the background there. Like, I got some really nice shots and angles I thought, the yawn and everything. Like, red river hogs are probably, it's hard to say. I always say that everything's my favourite animal. Like, it's just hard to have a favourite, you know what I mean? But these are absolutely adorable. Anyways, I'll be adding this to the workshop as well. I'm pretty sure I just call it Red River Hog Enclosure. If not, I'll put a link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, so it'll be easier for you to find. And I hope this is giving you some inspiration with your builds. In the comments below, let me know if you've enjoyed this, and is there something that you'd like me to build in the future? Any ideas? I'm always happy and open to have them. And as always, thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.